for their presentation, so don't go home and question your junior high school student because they get it. Now, like I said, this content's pretty bad when it comes to just what traffickers do and what you guys should look for as parents. So just be wary of that as you go through the slides. But I'm gonna go ahead and pass the mic.
Hi guys, my name is Andrea and I work with the Crisis Intervention and Advocacy Center here in Winterset. Short SIAC, it's called SIAC. So if you hear that, long Crisis Intervention and Advocacy. We're a local victim advocacy agency here in Winterset. We serve survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, homicide, and other violent crime, and people experiencing homelessness. We do serve 10 counties throughout central and southwest Iowa, including Madison County. We are a 100% free, voluntary, and confidential service. We are not mandatory reporters, and we cannot share any information you give us without your permission. And I'm here if anyone needs to step out or process any of the information that's going to be given to you tonight. It can be kind of an emotional subject, so I am available. And then there are brochures and business cards with our 24-hour crisis numbers. If anyone is interested, they're on the table as you came in. Okay, I'll hand it off.
Hi everybody, I'm Sarah Simon and I am with the Winterset Rotary Club. I'm also part of the District 6000 Prevention Against Human Trafficking Action Team, and we on that team work together with the legislature and Safe Harbor to change some of our legislature laws. And so that's what I typically advocate for through that action team. And January, I don't know if you guys are aware, but it's National Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And so the goal tonight is to raise awareness about the human trafficking and how to identify and prevent this crime. So another topic we're going to talk about is social media. One thing is that big tech companies have designed social media to maximize profit without regard to the impact of our kids. So I am going to have Dio come up and give his presentation because I am not a speaker. So he will do a really good job about going over the social media awareness and the human trafficking portion of it. So thanks for coming tonight.
Well, thank you. Everybody seems excited, huh? Everybody get here? I'll tell you right now, that siren going off is a fire in Patterson. So if you hear that faint siren, there's a fire going on in Patterson. We're okay. All right. Just everyone who does not know me or is unsure of who I am, my name is Ayala. I'm the Madison County Emergency Management Homeland Security Director, and I've been doing this kind of a training or awareness training for almost like 2 years now. So I've kind of updated some slides, but really what this whole purpose of this is to get an understanding of human trafficking and how to prevent it. Now, before I get started, I just want to do a really cheap shout out for Alert Iowa. So if you have a phone, you should have Alert Iowa on your phone. That's really, really important to have. Alert Iowa is great for many reasons. Number one, for weather. So if you haven't, you know there's a winter weather advisory coming to town. More snow. But secondly, if there's any sort of event that's not weather related, let's say you have, like we had 2 years ago, the standoff at the church. If you had that alert app on your phone, you knew that, and you weren't depending on going to Winterset Ranch and Raise to figure out what's going on. So it's a really simple app to have. It's free. If you have any sort of social media, I think it's a great tool to use. So I just want to put that out there. Okay. So the whole purpose of this is an awareness of what's going on with human trafficking, victimization, and how you can prevent it, and just kind of recognize some behaviors that you might see in people, especially your children. Again, this is going to be pretty upfront and blunt. The whole purpose of that is for you guys to understand what's going on when it comes to human trafficking, the indicators, and then the involvement. I'm going to start with this video here.
When you work in the service industry, you see a lot of homes in all sorts of areas. You meet a lot of people and even pets. Out here, you have to take your job seriously. be on the lookout to find better ways to safeguard the people you serve.
What kind of shop you guys got going here? Great, welcome to the neighborhood. Thanks.
Or the products that protect their homes, or services to get their homes running just right. You work hard every day because you don't want to miss a thing.
Like you just did.
Do I have your attention?
Workers who are in people's homes on a day-to-day basis are a critical part of identifying potential cases of human trafficking and combating this horrific crime. When you know what to look for, you can help bring an end to human trafficking.
As service workers,
Alright, so the whole purpose of that video is, if you were watching it, as you watched the first time, you might have caught like one thing, right? But obviously there's a lot of things that are out there that we're just not looking for at our day to day. That's kind of what I'm talking about tonight, is making you more aware of what's around you, right? Like the idea of seeing like a person with a house with windows and bars, that's strange, right? Things of that nature. So first and foremost, I want to get some definitions here. Human smuggling and human trafficking. I turn my microphone off. There we go. Human smuggling and human trafficking are different crimes. So human smuggling is the illegal movement of someone across a border, where human trafficking is the illegal exploitation of that person. So that's first and foremost. We have to define that, okay? It's a highly profitable crime. Who's the richest person in the world right now? You want to take a guess? Give me a name. Bill Gates, Elon Musk, right? Their money is nothing compared to human trafficking. It's a drop in the bucket. And it's a highly, highly profitable business, and I'll tell you why here. Everyone in here is the asset, right? Every single person here, it what makes human trafficking go. So it doesn't matter if you're 70 years old or 7 years old. You can be used for human trafficking. So you have to first get that out there right off the bat, right? Everyone in this audience is worth money, okay? So just think about that as we go through this. There's 3 types of human trafficking. First is forced labor. Do we live in an agricultural state? Right? So forced labor is not something that is really something that you have to really think about, right? So I am forcing you to work on my farm. I'm forcing you to work in my factory. And you don't have a choice. And sometimes this is used by, you come over here looking for a job, I take your papers, and then you basically are stuck, and I say, hey, if you say something, then I'm gonna call the authorities. Right? So then they just work, and they work, and they work, and they work. And years ago, hotel industries are pretty guilty of having people that didn't realize were doing forced labor. Domestic servitude, I literally saw this this morning. There's a case down in Missouri where a guy came over to his cousin, who he thought was a good person, and his cousin basically forced him to give him massages, to work at his computer company, and again with the same threat of violence. And when he didn't do the things he said he was supposed to do, they beat him with whips, wires, kicked him. When they finally found him, he had multiple broken bones. He's been in the hospital for quite a long time. But again, that's domestic servitude, right? So I'm having someone do that work for me, and if you don't do it, there's gonna be some force applied to you. And the one thing that we're really talking about tonight is sex trafficking. So again, sex trafficking, which we'll talk about here at length, is basically manipulating someone using force in order to get sexual activity out of them. And I will tell you that when it comes to sex trafficking, you don't get a break, okay? So it's not like you get to take a break, it's 12, 13 hours straight of nonstop activity. And you know, when you're pretty much done, then there's other ways to take care of that, right? So this is a very, very serious topic of conversation. It could happen to anyone. So we have this idea that it only happens to a certain amount of people. Everybody in this room, male or female, that could happen to. Human trafficking is a business. It's an equal opportunity business. They don't care what you look like. If they can get something out of you, they're gonna get it out of you. So you have to remember that as well. Gender, race, so again, you could be 75 and be human trafficked. Something else that we have to get rid of, this idea that it only happens in big cities. Only in big cities. That's not true. Think about Madison County, think about any rural community. Would it be possible for me to hide someone out in a rural community? If I live in the city, it'd be harder for me to hide someone because we're on top of each other. Out here, it's not hard to do, okay? So we have to get rid of this idea that it only happens here. It only happens in big cities, it only happens in Des Moines, it can happen anywhere. So this is the routes of domestic sex trafficking in the US today. So if you look, Iowa has some lines going through it, okay? The other thing about 8035, which we'll talk about here in a second, it's not only just a drug trafficking corridor, it's a human trafficking corridor. So Iowa literally is the center of both human trafficking and drug trafficking. So something you probably won't see on a pamphlet. So here are the vulnerabilities. So, my job is to look at vulnerabilities, to look at things that we can strengthen, mitigate, and these are things that I find as our vulnerabilities here in Iowa. First and foremost, I-35 and I-80. I asked the kids this earlier, but does I-35 go through Madison County? It doesn't. It kind of borders through Warren County, right? Does I-80 go through Madison County? It does. A mile of it, but it does. So if you think about it, there's traffic I-35 and I-80, okay? So that's one vulnerability that we have, as a county. Internet and social media we'll talk about. So the idea that the internet is a really good place to grab people. Far are the days when I pull up in a white van and say, hey, I have a puppy, come on in, right? Those days are kind of behind us. Now we have the internet do that kind of work for us. Lack of training for professionals. So again, we don't do a lot of training when it comes to human trafficking. We do a lot of training for other things. We don't talk about human trafficking. So really getting that up and going. And then the ignorance, silence, and lack of discussion. We don't like talking about these things. This is a fun topic of conversation, right? If I said, hey, tonight we're going to do an ice cream social, it's supposed to be packed, right? But this is a topic that is hard to talk about, and that's the way I talk about it. The belief that bad things don't happen in Iowa, they can't happen here. They only happen somewhere else. They happen here. Okay, and I have some case studies to show you. And then, of course, that's why you guys are here tonight, right? To get a better understanding of trafficking in the community. And again, I'll tell you right off the bat, there's no concern right now in Madison County. There's no cases in Madison County. The purpose of this is an awareness discussion, right? Just to understand. And then, belief that trafficking only happens in larger cities. And of course, refugee populations. Only refugee populations are affected. That's not true. This is across the board. Apps you should know as parents. So now apps change all the time. I want to point out a couple apps that you should really think about. If your kids have them, ask questions. What is the calculator app? Okay, so the calculator app looks like a calculator. But in reality, it's an app that you can actually hide pictures on. Okay, so you can take that app. Looks like a calculator, it's more of a code, and you can hide pictures on there. So calculator app's not great. Snapchat. So I'm not gonna ask who here has Snapchat, but I told the kids today, Snapchats don't go away. I'm gonna give you the very simple way why Snapchats don't go away. I send a picture, I'm gonna say Vicky, I send a picture that's inappropriate to Vicky. I wouldn't do that, but for this one, we'll say that, okay? Vicky has two ways to keep my photo. First one is she can take a screenshot. She can screenshot out my photo, then I'm gonna know she took that screenshot, and I'm not gonna send a second one. Now, if Vicky has two phones, and I send her a Snapchat, she takes the second phone, opens the Snapchat, and takes a picture of the picture. Now she has the picture. I don't know she has the picture, okay? The second way that you can get Snapchat access is very simple. Let's say you get into trouble, right? Police get a subpoena. They subpoena Snapchat. Well, your Snapchat, your text messages, your Facebook, all that stuff is up for grabs. So any things that you're doing on Snapchat or Facebook or Reddit, all those things, all that history is taken because that's how it happens. So I think sometimes kids believe that you can do these things and there's no consequences. There are, okay? But especially Snapchat, because they always have this perception that Snapchats disappear and they don't. So the other apps here, kind of Reddit's got a bunch of stuff. Reddit's not a great place for kids. If your kid has a Reddit account, get rid of it. Because Reddit, you can put anything that you want in Reddit, and Reddit will find it for you. And there's a lot of people out there putting a lot of things that kids should not be saying. WhatsApp, Whisper, all these things here, again, all these apps are something you should look at, but also even as simple as Roblox. So Roblox has a chat feature, right? People can get on there and chat with their kids. Xbox, PlayStation games, you just have to really be careful. Here's an example of why you should be careful and why parents should really be concerned. This gentleman here posed to be a teenager. He looks like he's a teenager, right? Young guy. What he did, it was he would Snapchat, add friends, and then convince these girls to give him pictures of themselves that were naked. Once they sent that first picture, then he said, if you don't send me a second picture, then I'm going to tell your parents. And he put them in this wood loop of constantly sending pictures to supply to him in order for him not to tell their parents. Now, that's a crime, right? Even if the kid did it once, kids should know, like, hey, make a mistake, you should report that. But these kids get scared of the repercussions of their parents, and that's what he basically lived off of, was that. Luckily for us, he's getting 30 years in federal prison, and that's the end of that. But think about all the images that he has from those kids, those victims that were spread somewhere else. Next, this is pretty fresh. This is Carl Dale Markey. Same situation, except he was a teacher, right? This is something he used again, sex fraud acts, and he's indicted for it. He's no longer with us, he's in prison. But this also comes to the fact that he used child pornography. He took pictures, had those pictures, and those can be distributed. And what we have to understand is tell kids, if you are in these situations, to let the situation that you're in, let your parents know. You shouldn't be afraid to tell your parents, because again, if you don't tell your parents, if they don't tell you, then that loop will continue, and people like this will thrive. So, again, he's off the streets, thank goodness. When COVID happened, human traffickers really had to step their game up because they were no longer able to go out and solicit. So they used the internet, right? There's a big jump in internet activity, messaging, games, all those things are out there. And you can see off the stats up there, like, although it was drastically reduced, there were still people out there trying to get trafficking kids and adults into the business, because again, the machine has to be fed, and the machine is us. Here's an example of grooming, which I'll walk through grooming. This is a pretty good video on what grooming looks like for teenagers and adults.
Another weekend and nothing to do.
Yeah, we really need some excitement in our lives.
Well, if it isn't the two prettiest girls in the place. I can't believe you're sitting here all by yourself. Can I get you something to eat with your lattes? Maybe a croissant?
No, we're good.
Actually, I would like a croissant.
Meredith.
Okay, one croissant coming up. A treat for the beautiful lady. Look, I hope I'm not being too forward, but I'm having a little get-together, a little party this Saturday. And there'll be some very cool people. They don't want me to say it, but they're in the entertainment industry. Anyways, it'll be awesome if y'all could come.
Oh yeah? Where's it at?
Here, I'll text you the address. What's your number? Hey, there's my girls.
Hey.
Come on in. You got anything you want? Here, come meet some of my friends.
What is he doing here? How old is he anyways?
Honey, I just ran into him at the mall.
I thought you could use a lift.
Hey, sweetie. Oh, look,
My ride's here.
this is nice.
Check it out. I got you something.
Oh no, you didn't. Wow, it's the one from the mall. I love it. And I love this car.
Yeah, this is my baby. But she might be gone before long.
What do you mean?
I owe the IRS a lot of money, and if I stop making my payments, baby goes bye-bye.
That's awful. Is there anything I can do?
Nah. Well, wait a minute. Maybe there is. You know my buddy Frank? You met him at the party. He said he would front me the money if... Nah, you don't want to hear this.
I do. What about Frank?
Well, he said he'd front me the money if... Well, if you were to go on a date with him.
Well, if he's a friend of yours and he could help you over a rough spot, I could do that. Maybe we could, like, double date?
Yeah, maybe. We'll work it out. God, that would really save me. You're the best.
Meredith, where have you been? It's been 3 days. You can't return my calls?
I just had stuff to do.
Are you hungover? Is it about this creepy guy? I told you, he's nothing.
Don't you dare talk bad about Denver. I've just been helping him out, okay? Maybe you're just too immature to understand. Look, I gotta go.
Come on, Meredith. Get up. Leave. Get up.
She does something. So I'll tell you, she tells her counsel, I need a volunteer. Any volunteer here for me? Not you little dude. Oh, hey, you're back there. You want to come up for me? Thank you. All right. I'm gonna walk through the steps of grooming, okay? And the first 2 steps are gonna seem pretty normal, and then you'll see how this turns. And it kind of talks about this in the video, but it's also good to kind of talk through this as well, so. Come on up. All right. Okay, this is the most popular part of this. I will tell you. Okay, so the basic starts of grooming is very simple. It's targeting. Okay, so for the purpose of this, she will be the target. I am going to be the bad guy. Okay, so if you just play along with me, everything's yes. Okay, cool. All right, cool. All right, so let's say I see her at Hy-Vee. We'll see something simple, Hy-Vee, okay? So I target her. I'm like, hey, how's it going? You know, we're talking, and I'm like, hey, I'd love to take you out to eat. You say, yes, perfect, wonderful, great. Okay, so far so good. Is that normal behavior? Would everybody agree with that? Right? You meet somebody, you talk to them, you have a conversation. Perfect. Okay, the next part is getting to know someone, right? So far so good. We're getting to know each other. So like, tell you about yourself, you tell me about yourself. You know, your parents, your problems, things of that nature, right? Just tell me those things. So far so good, right? And that's how you build a relationship. Everyone agree with that? We're going good, perfect. So here's the thing, I'm a trafficker, I'm a bad guy. So usually when you're building a relationship, you ask these questions, you want to get to know each other, you tell each other things, yada, yada, yada. In this particular case, I'm getting the information to cause harm. Okay, so let's say she tells me, hey, I'd love to go to prom, but I don't have a dress. And I say, you know what would be great? I'll give you the money. You know, hey, let's go out to eat. I'll take you to McDonald's here in town, right? It's the new McDonald's, all fancy pants, right? Yeah, right, oh yeah, McDonald's. You know, let's go to Des Moines, let's buy some shoes, right? So the idea is that all of a sudden I become the person that she can always depend upon, okay? And I know this, so I'm paying all these things, she's becoming more and more confident in our relationship. And just like on the video, her friend says, you know, how old is this guy, this Denver guy? Same thing, so she's telling all her friends, hey, this guy's doing these things, and her friend's like, well, that seems like, that's weird, why is he doing these things? And then to the point where I keep telling her, no, they're just jealous. They're jealous of what we got here. I mean, look how good we have it. And then she's, okay, she loves it. And then her friends decide that, hey, this is too weird for us, and they step away. And this is where it gets dangerous. Then I say, you know what? The reason why your friend stepped away is because you're stupid. That's why. I'm the only one that trusts you. I'm the only one that can help you. I mean, obviously, look, all your friends left you. Your parents don't want to talk to you anymore, and because you're dumb. And now, like, you have to depend on me now, right? So I'm isolating her, now I'm abusing her. Because like in that video, as soon as I've done that abuse, Then I start saying, you know what, that money, all that money I spent on you, I gotta get that money back. And if she says no, that's when I will either use more verbal abuse, or then I'll use physical abuse, because at this point, you know, we're already down the road. And this can happen in a month. This isn't a year-long affair. This is like a month this can happen, right? Thanks for coming up, appreciate you. You're the best. All right, so the idea again is to maintain that control. So once I have broken, you know, her spirit, her way, her thinking, then she becomes someone that I can use as an asset. Right? Because again, anytime she wants to run, I can say, look, no one wants you anyway, so why should you? I mean, why even try? And this is how I do this victimization. Now, this is different strategies that are used by traffickers, so I'll go down each one. The very first one's a boyfriend, right? So in this particular case, I was acting like a boyfriend. The second one's a daddy, right? So if I understand that you don't have a really good father figure in your life, then I'll come in as the dad figure, right? You depend on me. I'm just like a dad, and then turn on you. This finesse pimping or Romeo pimping is basically looking at the decision of manipulating the person to make their own decisions. So I'm making them believe they're making their own decisions, right? Like, hey, I mean, I'd love to buy this for you, but I just got a situation where this guy wants to take you on a date. Well, I'll go on the date. I could do that for you, right? I basically tricked the person. The bait and switch we'll talk about here in a moment, but the bait and switch is very simple. I say, here's this job. You come out here for the summer and do this job, and then I take that job away from you. Guerrilla pimping is very simple. It's extreme force. So you're going to do it, or I'm just going to beat you up. I'm going to hurt you physically, and you're going to do that if you like it or not. And I'm going to keep beating you until you understand what has to be done. And then the friend, right? Forming a normal friendship. I want to be your buddy, and then that's how I get in here. These are the techniques. So if you know anybody, adult or kid, that is going through this, or they're starting to tell you about these things, take note, right? Take note and be like, that seems pretty strange. I just learned about this, right? Because you may be able to stop the cycle before it goes to its full completion. This is the mind of a trafficker. I'll read this to you, so you can read it with me. Actually, I want to read it. It's pretty gross. I'll give you a moment to look at it. You read it yourself. I bet you didn't know there's actually a book on pimping. Now you know. Okay? So there's a book on everything that's terrible. This is a book from 1998, right? I found this chapter is pretty easy to find, but the idea is very simple. These things are out there. People are using these techniques, these different types of manuals in order to manipulate children. Like this gentleman here. Kachimbi Lukanuzu? We'll go with that. And I have a difficult name, I just messed that one up pretty bad. So this guy promised women money and other things to glamorize the lifestyle. So he had this, great lifestyle of luxury and made them believe like he wanted to be a part of this, and when in reality he was just using them for their bodies and their money. As you can see, he was 35 years old, and what he did in order to keep his victims viable, he gave them drugs, kept them high the entire time, around the clock. So again, your human body, if you go to the gym for more than 2 hours, you get tired, right? This guy doesn't believe in that. He continued to drug them and used them until they basically passed out, woke them back up and did it again, and this is how he ran his business. 22 years in federal prison. So I talked about the employer bait and switch. I really want you to pay attention to this, because as soon as it gets out of this really cold and nasty weather, we're back to spring and summertime. And when summertime comes, all these jobs open up, right? And for kids, they'll see something like this and say, oh wow, $500 to $700 daily? That's great money, right? $500 a month? Great. $500 a week? Perfect. And as you can see here, it says, no weekend, serious cash daily, okay? This is not an ad that's really gonna get you anything successful. It's gonna actually get you in a lot of trouble. This next thing, if you look at this ad, it's kind of all over the place, but it's for modeling. So it goes down to fitness modeling, to hair and makeup, lingerie, professional, underwear, swimsuit. So basically anybody can do anything. And all you gotta do is basically send your picture in, send your information in. And then after that, maybe I'll have you come down to Jordan Creek at some strip mall. I'll have you take more pictures and say, oh, you're perfect. We're gonna have one more appointment, have you come back down again, and that's when you get snatched, okay? So you have to understand when kids are saying, oh, I found a job, ask a question of what that job might be. And this is all real stuff. I didn't make this up. This is stuff that actually was pulled. At the time it was Craigslist, but there are other things that are out there that do these things. That there's jobs that are out there that are trying to lure kids in. Today, I was talking to junior high and I said, hey, has anyone gotten a text from someone that they don't recognize? And like half the gym raised their hands. And it looks just like this, right? So I text someone, I'm the bad guy, and I say, I just look up a random number and I go, hey, don't forget tonight's the night. And the kid's gonna say, what's the night? I gotcha. And I'll say, isn't this Tim? No, this is Katie. Oh, Katie, tonight's a big opportunity. And since we're talking, I'll tell you what it is. A big party tonight, okay? Go home tonight and ask your kids if they've gotten a random text from people. I bet you're going to be surprised at how many texts they get. But that's what happens, right? It's another way to lure people in. And they do that basically off a computer. A computer, you can actually text off a computer. So they just look up numbers and try their best, and people will respond. In fact, I've gotten it twice. I got a happy birthday, Mary. So I decided to say, oh, how'd you know it's my birthday? And I had like a 25-minute conversation with some stranger. And then they were like, you're not married. I'm like, I'm not married. And a minute later, I got another one. Happy birthday, Mary. Right? And I'm an adult. I'm 46 years old. So if I'm getting them, they think my name is Mary, I imagine your kids are getting them too. So ask your kids about it. You'll be surprised at what you'll find out. This is really important. This is one of the Iowa codes. I pulled this off. It's a 72.8.12, sex exploitation of a minor. Kids have to understand this very simply. If I am underage, I take a picture of myself and I'm nude, and then I send that picture to someone else, I'm committing a crime. Some kids don't think that through. So I'll say it one more time. If I take a picture of myself and I'm a minor, and I send it to another minor, I have committed a crime. The kid who then receives that picture is now holding child pornography, right? So when you talk to your kids, and this is Iowa, you look up there, it's Iowa code, you have to make them understand that, right? They're minors. If you take a picture of yourself naked, you are a minor, you are basically creating child pornography, okay? And it's hard to say, like, you send it to someone else, it's not gonna go across the internet, it will. So when it comes to the actual markings and tattoos of people that are human trafficked, here are the things that you can look for. Barcodes, just like your local store, a SKU number, okay? A tattoo with a crown with a name in it, a $sign, those are the things that you'll look for. You will see, and it's pretty obvious too. And if you ever go to any sort of store, like say Hy-Vee, Casey's, Come and Go, on the road somewhere, if somebody comes in with somebody else, right, two people come in, and I'm saying, hey, Katie wants this drink. Katie wants that, and Katie's not talking, that's an indication that there's something wrong there. If I'm not talking, if someone's telling me or asking things for me, or we go to the bathroom together, that's a problem, okay? Airline flight attendants have really done a good job now identifying human trafficking in air, right? It's just because of the behaviors and mannerisms of the person. So when I tell you, if you see someone that has these tattoos, it's not time for you to be a hero. It's time for you to report that, right? Call the police and say, hey, I saw some really interesting behavior. Because again, you may be stopping a trafficking victim. So we talked about some terrible people. I'm going to talk about some more terrible people. I don't know if anyone here has been to the cafe. There was a Jimmy's Cafe in Council Bluffs, and I've done this talk. I met one person that's like, I've been there before. He's not there anymore. So what this gentleman did was he went and used his wait staff as prostitutes. So he was buying the girls jewelry and giving them money and influencing them, and then having his friends come from all over the country, sleep with this girl, and then leave. He was running basically a sex trafficking ring out of his restaurant. The only funny thing I can say is he's actually wearing the shirt of his restaurant while he's getting booked. That's the funniest thing. Everything else is terrible. He is in jail for 360 months for human trafficking. But again, this is a guy that's a pillar of the community. Everyone loved him, loved his cafe, right? So it's not always the person that's a stranger in town. It could be someone that you know, right? So just, you have to make sure that your kids are aware of behaviors like this. This is the worst case. This is the most brutal case, and I'll explain it to you. This is from Clive. This is not like, again, these are Iowa cases. They're not from some rare place, some Clive. The two people on top, this convince a mom and her kid to go on a road trip. Sounds fun, right? We're gonna go on a road trip. We're gonna go across the country. During the road trip, the couple up top becomes very violent to that woman. They start beating her, punching her, kicking her. They start cutting under her feet, cutting under her nails, right? Cut under her feet so she can't run. And then that dog kennel that is there, they put her in the dog kennel. So they would beat her, they pimp her out, put her back in the dog kennel, cut her some more, pour Clorox on her, do terrible, terrible things to her. They thought they had her so defeated that they stopped in Nevada at a rest stop. And at this rest stop, there's a trucker sitting there doing his logbook. He's sitting there signing a log, and he looks out in the distance and he sees a trailer, and he sees someone in the window, and the person's there, and they get yanked back, and the trailer shakes. So the trucker thinks, that's weird. Calls 911. Deputies come, troopers come, go to the trailer, knock on the door. These people were so confident that they had her broken, they let the deputies in. Let them in. Let them talk to her. And she said, I'm being human trafficked. And that's the end of that story. So, again, these people are out there, and they do terrible things. What I'm giving you tonight is pretty light compared to some other things. But the fact that they beat her, used Clorox, cut her feet, all those things, nasty business. Now, there's one person that I know, or a kid, that I've talked to that actually went to Ohio because she thought she was in love with a guy that wasn't really a guy that she thought it was. She left home, went to Ohio, and then she came back safely. There's another one where a girl, both girls, told her parents that she was going to Jordan Creek Mall. She lied and was going somewhere else, and she almost got kidnapped, taken away. At the last second, she realized that something was wrong and she left. Right? So these things are happening a lot more than we want to talk about, but we have to talk about these things. I'm at the end, so I left time for questions. There's plenty of time for questions, but I just want to highlight some things here. Number one, if you are or you know of someone that's been human trafficked, or there's a concern, reach out to the sheriff's office, right? If you're Winterset, call the sheriff's office, they'll get the Winterset PD, but definitely report it. Do not just say, it's just a one-off. Whether you report it or not report it. Iowa has an office to combat human trafficking as well, so they do a really good job of looking at hotels, make sure there's no sort of shenanigans at hotels. But overall, the Blue campaign, which I left some things out there, these cards, I would tell you to take these cards with you. Very simple, it tells you all about human trafficking. So if you have any questions about victims of trafficking, it's right here. There's also a very handy dandy keychain you can look up there as well. Some flyers from CICS, and then just a really brief discussion on ending human trafficking. This really concerns me, it concerns a lot of people, because again, we want to prevent this from happening in our communities. And hopefully, I gave you a really good awareness, hopefully, of what can happen, what you should look for, and I'm just going to now open it up for questions, if you have any questions, and we'll go from there. So, don't all ask me at once, I'll get confused. What questions do you have? Yes, sir.
When you're at the rest stop on the interstate, you see all this number of human traffic. Are those tying back to the traffickers? That's proof that ties back to traffickers, or is that truly?
No, so a lot of those, we actually have these stickers around the county now. So those vetted, yeah. But I would say again, if most people don't realize it's called 911, right? Some people have a language barrier, okay? So they may not know, or wherever they're from, the trafficker has told them, hey, in this country, the police are gonna beat you. So you can't, it's the same thing here, and not realizing that the police are not gonna do those things. But no, those numbers go to trafficking hotlines. So, because there's also a program, I see it, give me a second. There's also a program called Truckers Against Trafficking. So even truckers have the awareness of human trafficking in their daily drives. So, it's a good question, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Great question. My advice is if you see a car on the side of the road and it's blinking, call law enforcement. I mean, we all want to be good people. We want to be heroes, right? But you don't know. There have been cases where people have done that. They've disabled their car for you to come up and, you could be kidnapped. There's cases of baby left in the middle of the road, so you stop and slow down for the baby, right? These things happen. And I'm not saying every single car you come across, but you're a trafficker. I'm just saying use situational awareness of what could be going on around you, right? So if you're by yourself, midnight, and there's someone with blinkers, right? I just make a note of it. Don't stop and try to be, because you don't know what's going on. People can be hiding in the bushes. So, good question. Oh. 2 questions. What's up? It's all right. Two questions and there's a lot of pressure. What else, guys? Anybody else?
I just want to share something that
Sure.
actually happened to me this past summer. So I ride my motorcycle a lot, all over the state, and I was getting fuel, and then I was taking a break, standing outside. I had a gentleman approach me and asked for gas money, and I said, I don't have any cash, I don't carry cash, and he was very persistent. Doing what I do, I was kind of already on alert, like, don't talk to me, I'm like, I don't have any cash, I can't help you. He then said, look, my wife and my children are in the vehicle. He goes, I just need to have, can I use your card, here, come and look, my wife and children. And I knew better than to go over because of that human trafficking, so it can, and it happened here in Iowa in broad daylight at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you don't think that it's real, it truly is real. And I was traveling alone at that time, coming back from being out of state. So it was, I wasn't scared because I know how to do some things, but I was already on alert just because of the work that I do. So
yeah, it's about situation. I see you in a second. It's about situational awareness, right? So even like Jordan Creek Mall, there's been reports of Jordan Creek Mall, Target, West Glen, there's a guy in the car. I always tell people this. I usually tell teenagers this, and kids. If I go to the mall, Jordan Creek Mall, and I go to the Apple store, and I see someone, that could be normal. Now, if I go to Barnes & Noble and that person's there, that should make you wonder. Now, I go then to Sbarro, and they're there too. That's highly unlikely that we're just going to this, we have the same shopping list. Like everywhere I go, they go. Right? That's the stuff that you need to be situationally aware of because you don't know, right? And they're depending on you to have your phone attached to your face because you're not paying attention. They're looking at you and you're just like, Snapchat, Twitter, right? So it's just really being aware of your surroundings because when you detach yourself from a situation and look at it, you'd be surprised what you see, right? Years ago, I was a student at Simpson and I went to a rally and I detached myself from everyone else. I was writing a paper and I just watched things. And at this rally, people were doing all these weird things and I was like, that's really strange, right? I could see that because I detached myself. So the idea is, again, to detach yourself from the situation the best you can and understand what's around you. Again, if I'm following you, if there's a car parked next to me, there's somebody in the car, maybe sitting there, that's something you should take a note of. I'm not saying call the cops, but take a note of that. Hey, when I pulled up, there's a car sitting there, the guy's looking at me, I come out 30 minutes later, they're still there. You should take a note of that. Yes, ma'am.
So when you're just walking around town or driving somewhere, how do you know if you're being targeted?
Well, again, it comes back to being aware of your surroundings, right? So taking a look around you, right, to see like that car, if there's a car driving by, you take a note of that car, right? That red car comes around 3 times, then it just makes you like, okay, why is that car circling so many times, right? Why is this guy all of a sudden coming and talking to me? Oh, hey, how's it going? Are your parents around? And it seems so silly to sound, but that's what happens, right? Or for older adults, hey, my arm's kind of sore. Can you help me carry these bags? Right? Innocent stuff. You're like, okay. And those are things that can help you get targeted. Or, giving someone your phone. Hey, I broke down, can I use your phone? Here's my phone. You give someone your phone, they're calling someone and so on and so forth. So just gotta be careful. Unfortunately, we live in a dangerous world, right? I'm a pessimist, it's my job to be pessimistic. I want you to go home and really think about what I'm talking to you about tonight, right? Just to have that idea of like, there are things that are out there, not to make you paranoid, it's just to make you aware. So, what are the questions? Anybody got a hand up back there, sir? Justin, your hat? All right. Yes, ma'am.
What are some things maybe that, because I'm a high school teacher, obviously some of this training, and I told my Rotary group that I realized after the fact that a student of mine was being trafficked, and it still haunts me. I mean, I still get teary-eyed because I missed an opportunity because I simply wasn't trained. But now all the signs are there, and I was like, oh my goodness, it was right in front of me. I just completely missed it. So I always want to preach what are some things that us as everyday citizens because what I realized about this student is that it was not obvious in the slightest. I thought some things were strange, but they weren't enough. So oh, that kid's being trafficked. It was just a bunch of little things that seemed a little off, but so what are some things that us as everyday citizens, in our schools, in our communities, could just be a little bit more aware of?
Yeah, so I mean, for students or kids, I think I'm not going to do a survey. Who has kids here, right? But you know how your kids act, right? So for students, if the student is gregarious, always talking and outgoing, then all of a sudden they come in and they're just super reserved, right? That might be a sign. The change of their clothes, right? So maybe they're wearing jeans and let's say it's a boy, jeans and a sweatshirt, and all of a sudden they're wearing shorts, short shorts or more revealing things, right? It just seems a little off or odd. And even their behavior, because if they're being trafficked, they're working all night long, right? So they're tired when they come to school, they're irritable, they're aggravated. Those are the signs that I would say. And even for your kids, if they're playing video games in their room and they close their door all the time, why is your door closed? No, I want privacy. Sometimes kids want privacy, but you also want to do a little more probing. And why all of a sudden are you being so private? What's going on with you, right? So yeah, change of attitude, change of behavior, a lot of secrets, right? All of a sudden everything's secrets. That miscommunication, those are things that are telltale signs. And like I said, when I told the kids about Snapchat today, I saw a lot of kids' eyes get as big as dinner plates because they thought for some reason where they were, that what they were doing couldn't be found, right? And that's just the conversation you have to have. Hey, everything you think you're doing here, it could be looked at. Not only that, but the social media presence alone, right? Things you put on social media now, you think it's smart. 10 years from now, you look for a job, not so great, right? So things like that as well. Good question. But I would say to you, what you're doing is great. You're expressing that and just making sure that people know, these are things you should look for. So.
That's the thing. They're just very little subtle things.
And the best way to do it is hey man, what's going on? You just seem really irritable lately. Your grades you're not doing too great. It's like any conversation you have, just being aware of it, because again, these signs are out there, or even something else. This is 25 years ago when I was in the military. I worked at a place that a van would pull up and people would come out of it. I never thought anything about it. That's interesting. Now I'm they're trafficked. They're going to and from, they're getting picked up and they're getting dropped off, right? So even that, right? You're outside of school and the person drops off and they're in a nice car. It's something you should have a conversation about. What else? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. All the questions. What's up?
So
So if a kid's trafficking, or if they're kidnapped, I mean, the signs could, I mean, like I kind of said this earlier, but if they're being actively trafficked, and they're being brought into a store, or they're being, you know, brought to public, there's a person that's always shadowing them. You think about like your parents, right? You know, I got a boy, I got a girl. We have a good equal distance away from each other. I don't like hold them everywhere I go, right? But if trafficking victims, they're always at arm's length. So you gotta think about if I was trafficking your dad, right? We're only this close to each other. He's never out of my sight, right? Where I'm sure if you guys go somewhere, you might be 10 feet away, and it's okay because he can visually see you. Because he's not afraid that you're gonna say something that's gonna get him in trouble. Right, but the whole idea with traffickers is they're afraid that if you have 5 seconds, they're going to say something, so they want to make sure that you are right next to them. Plus, a lot of these people will threaten to say, if you go home, or if you tell anybody, I know where your parents live. Right, so you think your sister can survive what you're going through right now? These people are bad people, right? They're not people you can negotiate with, they're not happy-go-lucky. These are terrible, evil people. So, you know, Good third question. I'm happy you and I have a question to answer. What else, parents?
Do you tell your own personal story?
Oh, with me? So, it's a true story. I am in Omaha, so it's Jane, Jameson, and Nora, our little happy family. We go to Omaha for like a family weekend. Jane is with Nora, she's in Walmart, and I pull into the parking lot. So I kind of back up, and I see this car, and it's right in front of me, so I back in, and there's 2 guys, and they're like eating, and they're throwing stuff out the window, which I found to be very odd, right? But if you want to litter, I guess it's not my job to stop littering. So they're eating and throwing stuff out the window. At some point, talking to Jameson, we're just on the internet, just on my phone, and then Jane says, hey, come in here right now, okay? So I grab Jameson, we run into Walmart, and she's all like, kind of disheveled. What happened was, this woman came up to her and kept asking her where, like, I think it was like underwear or something, where is the underwear or lingerie or something? And Jane, so Nora was like 2, so she's sitting here, and she keeps telling her, hey, where's the underwear? Can you show what the underwear is? She keeps trying to point away to make Jane look away. And she's doing this, and Jane holds Nora's hand, and she looks over. She's like, I think it's over there. And at the exact time she turns her head, this other woman comes into the cart and tries to grab Nora and pull her out of the cart. Like, right, and so she sees it, she pushes the cart. The woman kind of falls back, and they ran to that car. So I basically passed these people. As I was coming in, they were going out, right? So even with me looking at my phone, facing their car, I was on my phone, they could have snatched my daughter and took off. And I'd have been like, this is broad daylight. This isn't like 10:30 at night, this is like 2 in the afternoon in Omaha. And if they would have hopped on I-80, that would have been the end, right? So that's a real story. I didn't make this up for this. This has actually happened. And that's why I'm so passionate about talking about this stuff, because it happens. And we have to get away from this idea that it doesn't happen here. It does happen here. I'm not saying it happens right here in Madison County, but it happens. And so you have to pay attention to what's around you, right? Young girls, young boys, old people. I'm an old person, right? I gotta watch my back too, because you just never know. And it happens in a split second, right? If they would have snatched Nora, she'd have gone. I've never seen her again. Right? And it'd be a different story I'm telling you tonight. So it's really very, very important to go home tonight, talk to your kids, talk to your uncle, to your nieces, nephews, whatever, and explain why this is important. Right? It's not cute because like I said, it's not cute because if a trafficker gets you or gets a kid, it's over. It's over. Right? It's hell on earth. So, all right. What else? For the questions. And this is depressing. Yes, sir. Yeah, I think you should. I mean, if you're seeing something happening, but you have to be careful when you say that, right? confront and be like, hey, what's going on? Not confront like, what are you doing? Right? Because again, I'm a big dude. I think I take on most people. You know, you don't know who's behind you. You don't know if if I see someone I suspect is trafficking and I'm somewhere else and I'm, hey, come back here. Where are you going? And I'm walking, I'm at their advantage. Right? Because I'm walking away from everybody else and they turn the corner and I'm big tough Dio. I don't know what's around that corner. Then I get bopped in the head and off I go. Right? So I would say if you see something that you find to be strange, you can say, hey, what's going on? And they're like, get away from me? Then you may want to call, authorities. But again, that's not, you jumping in and being a Superman. Seeing their description, seeing their car, call 911, and that's the best way you can do. Because then you don't want to put yourself in danger. Because you may have the kid in the car, and then and then take your kid. And what good is that, right? So, yes.
So, like, what if someone is kidnapped, but you see it and you don't have, like, anything to call someone?
Just get a description of the vehicle. Right? So I tell people this I do bomb awareness classes. And I always use me as an example, right? So I'm a big, handsome fella, right? If you agree with that? So handsome. But you look at me like, okay, he's got tan pants and a blue shirt, right? But I'm not gonna tell you to describe me, right? But there's more to that, right? Obviously, my skin color, I can't change my skin color, right? Would you agree with me on that? I could put on 50 pounds of makeup. I could put on a wig, right? I could put on a big afro wig. I could put on a big blonde wig if I wanted to. But I can't, after that, that's all I can change, okay? My height, I could sit in a chair, I could be smaller, but that's an identifying feature, right? Look at a person. So sometimes you get caught up and we say, oh, it was a white male, 6 foot, jeans. Yeah. Instead of saying, you know what? Person was white, jeans, black shirt, but you know what? He had like a scar on his head. That's a little better, right? It's like a car. I hear on the radio, hey, there's a car, 4 wheels, black, going down 169. That was the description. Cool, right? But hey, there's a car, black car, it's 4 wheels, black car, tinted windows. On the back it says, I love being a Hawkeye. That's a little better description, right? So just think about that when you describe someone. We get caught up in this tan pants. Yeah, tan pants, blue shirt, but also, hey, they had this distinctive feature. That make sense? For me, I have ears that I believe are tiny. I have a big head and tiny ears. Right? You can use that. I have tattoos that are covered right now. But if you said, hey, this guy had a tattoo on his arm, I can cover that with a shirt. If I'm masked and I pull that shirt back, there's my tattoo. Right? That's the things you want to think about. Because I can change my clothes, I can put on a wig, but there's something I just can't change. So, just getting out of the ballpark, kid. Man. All right, what other questions, guys? Back there? No? With the hat?
I'm good.
Good. Okay. Ma'am?
No,
Sir? Ma'am, sir, ma'am, sir, ma'am, sir, ma'am, sir. A question?
Yeah.
What's up?
How many of these trainings are do you know, like, going around the state? Are the colleges offering this kind of stuff, or?
So some colleges do offer this. The DOT offer this before they got merged with State Patrol. So there are trainings like this. I mean, for this county, it's little old me, right? Yeah, they're out there. But we also have to tell people like, hey, do you know much about human trafficking? Like, we also have to have that conversation. And again, it's not a conversation that's positive.
No, but, it's also important when you send your kids off to college.
Yeah.
They don't know what to look for, they don't know if someone's doing that.
So one of the things that those brochures I left out there, the Blue Campaign, that's perfect. And I would offer this if you guys are churches or groups that are like, hey, this is free. Right? I'm not getting paid for this tonight. I want to give this training. So if you say, hey, this training was somewhat decent, let me know, and I will go and talk to more people. The more people that have this, the better. Right? It's no different than like getting ready for the winter weather coming. You should have a coat and a hat. I see. Give me a second. You have a coat and a hat. Like, same thing for this, for trafficking. You should know, like, if you're getting messages, ignore them. If someone's trying to groom you, say something, right? That's the kind of thing. You had a question? And I'll continue.
No, so we have stop it, I almost stop.
Stop it, yeah, stop it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
states, so it's like, and so if I just wanted to send some stuff out to my fellow teachers, so we have this one, what are some really good?
So the Blue Campaign,
Yeah.
they have a lot of good stuff. Some of my stuff that I pulled from the Blue Campaign. So, Angie, your question, like the Blue Campaign, take the flyer or take it home, look it up. Blue Campaign is great. The Home Trafficking Iowa. There's a lot of different organizations out there that are looking for victims, right? Because just like you think of Law and Order, Law and Order starts, there's a crime, and then the victim, like they go to court, and the cops high five, and then the story ends, right? But we don't think about that victim, right? That rape victim. We don't go for like, okay, credits roll, next episode. There's groups out there that look at the victims, right? That are looking at the statistics of the victims, talking to the victims, getting their stories, right? Those are powerful as well. Talk about the victim stories because they've been through it, right? They were able to escape, but they were able to be saved, and then talk about that. So Blue Campaign is great. You can literally type in like Google human trafficking victim stories. Those are things I would definitely recommend. So, you had a question first. Sorry, I see you, but what's up?
So if you were in that, what techniques could you use to get away?
Well, I would say let's give you a technique prior to you kidnapped, right? So if someone is trying to grab you, the best thing you do is yell help, right? The old elbow, little punch in the place that you shouldn't punch, that's a great place to start, right? Soft eyes, your eyes are soft, thumb to the eye, right? It's survival, right? If you haven't become a victim, then you have to try your best to escape, right? Telling people, hey, help me, that kind of stuff. But let's just get you to the point where no one's gonna grab you. Make sense? Yes.
So I was thinking about, we talk a lot about like victims and stuff, but also maybe what are some ways to identify, there's a market for these people, right? So like the evil people, the people that are actually paying for humans, like maybe keeping our eye out for them as well, like things that you hear, like people talking about what they've done on the weekends, or you know what I mean, like maybe ways to.
Yeah. So I mean.
That's odd.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's about actively listening and being aware of your surroundings. As I said earlier, like understanding like this, that's a weird statement to make. The thing about human trafficking, I told the kids earlier, it just depends on what that trafficker wants that day. If blondes are really important, then I'm gonna grab a blonde. If brunettes are in session, I'm gonna grab a brunette, right? If it's men, I'm grabbing a man, I'm grabbing a boy, right? Because again, that's a plethora. There's no racism in human trafficking. It's a business. They're taking anybody, right? And then it's fetishes. What do I want? What do I like? Right? So to your point, a lot of stuff is dark web. The dark web is the place that a lot of these things are handled. These dirty, disgusting pictures are pushed around the dark web, right? The common internet doesn't have that. Dark web is where you can find kidneys and all those other things, body parts, all types of nasty business, right? But to your point, yeah, if people are saying things that seem a little weird, maybe probe some more, right? It's always pretty obvious. I'm always intrigued by when you see crime, or like all these bombings, right? The guy bombs a place, a lady bombs a place. They go to the neighbor, the news goes to the neighbor, and they say, hey, what happened? Oh, he's always doing weird things. One time, I had an Amazon box, and it had like a bunch of like peroxide in it. One day I heard an explosion, but I was like, that's just Bill. Right? Every time. I mean, every single time. And it's like the person knows it, and they're like, that was strange, but that's just Donnie. And then, oh yeah, I guess you're right. They did have like 6 rifles. I didn't think about that. They were burying cats. Right? So, again, we all know in our gut what behavior is. Right? The behavior, if your stomach's like, that seems strange, go with your gut and let someone know. Because if you don't do that, this is when you have bad things happen. This is when the people become victims. Yes?
I was going to ask them, so when you say let someone know, would you just call the county sheriff? Or are you supposed to just call 911? I mean, like...
So you...
That we
something just didn't seem right about somebody, but I didn't know.
Well, you know,
Is it just me, or should I?
you can always reach out to the sheriff's office, but I always say like why, right? Like what is it? So if give me a second. If I come into Hy-Vee and I'm in a poor attitude, I don't expect when I go outside there's a cop waiting for me. Like, hey, I heard you had a poor attitude today, right? So what is it that's causing you to feel this way? Like, here's an action. Well, hey, this guy, I went to Hy-Vee. This guy came in, really looking around, hands in his pockets, being really strange. There's a little girl, he asked the little girl if she wanted to go for a ride. That's an action, right? That's an actionable. So if you call this guy and say, hey, saw some guy come in being weird, well, you need to be specific, right? So that's what you want to think about. But if it's something that you see something or you hear something, then you want to say, hey, I'm at Hy-Vee and there's a situation, I just want to let you know. And then they'll make a determination of what to do next. But I don't want people to go ahead and go home and be like, that time Ricky said something weird, I'm calling the cops, right? You have to see something actionable or something that you suspect, then you can go to that route. So, good question. Yes.
Dio, I'd like to offer, there's a really good Iowa documentary called Gridshock. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but I offer it, I show it to people, and you know, it's just like this, but it's about 3 Iowa girls and their stories and their victims and how they got out of it. And then of course it gives all these, so just awareness, but I'd be more than happy to show it to, you know, just small groups or larger groups. It's just something I do.
Good. Send me an email.
I will.
We'll be at Roadshow.
Yeah, if anybody's interested, just come talk to me afterward.
What was the name of that again?
Gridshock. And actually, you can look it up. It's the Gridshock movie. Do you know how to get it?
You can watch it online.
You can watch it online. I think it's $10.
Yeah, I think you probably want to watch who you're showing it to, the age, the content's pretty.
It's hard.
Pretty harsh, and it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I mean, it is hard to watch. I'm very careful with who watches it, but yeah, it's just very truthful. It's Iowa, and it talks about the market. Somebody back there was talking about, you know, if we could just, it's kind of attacks that, if we could just stop this market, and so.
Yeah, I have the movie as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought it would be really cool to get like the Iowa theater to put it on, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. My group has the educational rights to it. We're not allowed to show it at theaters, but we can show it in little, smaller venues for free. We don't charge anything.
Thanks for coming. I see you. There's more questions, but yes, just now.
So like, sorry. So if like you see something like a person coming in and like trafficking someone in like Hy-Vee or any store or anything, would you like say approach them or ask them questions about it, or would you just like mind your own business, like hear about it and then?
I think like again, if you feel like the person's being trafficked, I mean, you could either let the store manager know, or like, hey, this is some strange behavior. Again, I really want to caution the idea of like, you know, it depends on the situation. If the person's separated, like, hey, how you doing? They don't answer you back, it's one thing, right? But I don't want you to think that you need to like be heroes, because again, like I said earlier, you try to be a hero and you may get yourself in bigger trouble, right? So just like say something, exact same approach. Just write it down, let someone know, let an adult know, and they can go from there. So, yes.
Is there a common environment for these bad people? Or is there a common place where things like this occur? Like music festivals, the state fair, the mall? I mean, is there a theme?
Yes. All of it. Yeah, so concerts, I mean, we have concerts here. I mean, we look for that. You know, Super Bowl championships, the NCAA tournament, there was a massive amount of prostitution. These events, because these events bring in everybody, so these traffickers will bring all their product in, right, to entertain. So yeah, these big events, you can see this right now. Again, no one's walking around like trafficking manager, but you'll see that kind of behavior. You see like, you know, some of the women or the men, you know, kind of downtrodden, like getting pushed out, vans, right? I talked about vans earlier, pulling up in the van right? So big events are big, you see a lot of trafficking, but even the mall, you can see trafficking. I said that earlier. The mall, tourist attractions, there's trafficking going on there. And there's someone that's waiting to traffic you. I live in New York for most of my life. I grew up in New York. The Port Authority bus station in New York, as soon as people would come off the bus station, like from Iowa or Nebraska or whatever, there's somebody there waiting for them. Hey, how's it going? How are you? You know your way around here? Right? That's the kind of stuff that happens. Same thing happens here. Right? Again, that's New York, but it happened here too. Oh, you're from Winterset? Oh, I'm from Des Moines. It's funny. Like it's the same thing like I did with Angie. The first 2 steps is building a relationship, right? I didn't do anything wrong. I asked her who she was. We went out. I asked her about her family. We talked. That's the first 2 steps. That's normal. The rest of it is where it gets slippery, right? And again, this happens not just to kids. It happens to adults too. So just be aware of that. So like I said from earlier today, be aware of your surroundings. Know what's around you, right? Be worried if the person's acting a certain way or being strange. Be wary of that. Right? Don't be so quick to give somebody your phone number. Don't be so quick to let them know where you live. Right? People ask me what I do for a living when I leave this place. I say I'm a dentist. Can you prove it? No. But I think it's funny. Right? So my point is you don't have to tell everybody what you do for a living. You don't have to tell everybody where you live until you know them better. Make sense? So, yeah. Go ahead. What else?
Oh, I was just going to remind just let everybody know that if you saw this, it was coming, this whole put together, you can use your camera to access this QR code. There's a lot of information. There's Iowa Network Against Human Trafficking. That's a really good hotline. Obviously, these phone numbers are also good as well, but maybe put some of those phone numbers in your phone. You can sign up for the newsletter. Again, a lot of these questions could be answered by just educating ourselves and really coming together as a community, and I think that's what we're doing here tonight, so really appreciate it.
And I appreciate you. I was like, I'm probably gonna get like 5 people tonight. And you broke my record for me. But again, I appreciate you guys coming out. It's 8:13, we'll give you back to your evening. If you have any questions, I'll be here for a bit. Like Sarah said, hit that barcode. If you want me to come out and talk to your churches or civic groups or something, just let me know, and I would love to do that. So on behalf of the Rotary and the Winterset Schools and yourselves, thank you for coming out. God bless.